Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you all had a great weekend and you are ready for yet another busy week in the markets. As you know, every Sunday I like to go through around 15 or so names that I like and share a bit of my thought process behind each pick. Also, if you would like to receive my watch list a day in advance so you can use it as a form of homework to prep and create your own analysis before my videos get released so you can compare your results with mine and see how you did, make sure you give me a follow on X, aka Twitter, at AB Trades. Remember, none of this is financial advice. This is just me sharing how I'm approaching the market and hopefully giving you a few ideas to add to your own. So go ahead and grab your coffee, pull up your charts, and let's go ahead and get right into it. The first name I am watching is GS. Now, the reason I like this, you can already see I have a bit of doodles on here. And the reason I like this is because you are still in your uptrend, right? The order flow, the context of this is still pointing up. And the reason is, remember, we had our initial expansion, which took us from one higher low to a higher high, correct? And we know that when we are in these uptrends, right, you have your externals into your internals, right? You have the trend within a trend, right? Price is fractal. So when I have these uptrends, a lot of the times when you're developing within, you can have something else going on a lower time frame, right? Your LTF. And so what I think GS is also setting up for is as we've created and established a nice higher low, and the reason I can put validity behind the higher low is because price delivery. Not only did you gap up off the bottom of the broadening, you created a nice broadening inversion paired with aggressiveness, a very strong candle that changed the narrative on that small time frame. So I think we are in this leg now where GS is now finding its internal structure to kind of correlate to the higher time frame, right? So when I go back to GS, there's quite a few things that I really like about this. And that is when I zoom into the 4 hour. So for one, we got the delivery that we wanted off this. So this now is established as a higher low to me. So if that is established as a higher low to me, within the daily and weekly, I'm looking for a run through 825 high. Now, price can develop here. The only way that this gets invalidated is if we get a daily close under 748, 750. Now, this can still develop because now that we've created that change in our hourly, right? If I bring this out, look at how clean that structure is. Right? Nice development out, establish a nice higher low. So price can now build within this region in between 754, which is also confluence of a gap, and where the origin of that inversion got created. And it's also confluence of the 618. We finally got this candle to get rebalanced. Price is now at discount within the lower time frames, and you also have a really nice breaker here. So there's a lot of confluence for Goldman Sachs to pretty much hold between 754 and that 767 area. Now, what matters from here is whether or not you want to kind of continue to balance out, or if you can get some strong delivery that finally takes you through 807, 810, 813, and even as high as, again, what we're looking for, that 825 high. Because when we go back and correlate the daily, right, we just got a really nice daily sweep. All those externals got swept, and we pretty much came back into that same range where price has kind of been stalling for a while. So I would like to see the delivery from here now attempt to pretty much continue this higher low to higher high, right? And so when I zoom in, just to get a little bit more confluence, you also have a potential power of three, right? You have your accumulation, you have the manipulation. If this low doesn't get tested anymore, right? You don't want this to get contested. You want it to kind of hold now. And we know that when we go into this series of power of three, you have your accumulation, manipulation, and then you have the distribution. So I would like to see if that distribution is what takes price up into those external highs that would then complete higher low to higher high. And then we have the next expansion and or impulse that pretty much continues what we're looking for within this trend, right? So that's my first pick on the list, GS. Um, This one was a bit of a mouthful, so I would definitely go back and review a lot of the things that I said on this because there's some pretty good things. And off of this 5 minute review alone on GS, you can also kind of start to see a lot of the confluences. Because for me, it's not just about finding a chart that looks good. For me, it's about building the confluences within the systems that I use that I know I can extrapolate into a repeatable process. So if you go back and review just this chart alone over and over again, you can pretty much see a lot of the key systems and or characteristics that I look for and try to combine to pretty much give me a really good risk reward trade. Next ticker on the list is MMM, and this is actually one of my more favorite charts. Really powerful setup. So not only did we complete, so you can see here prices in its consolidation period for about maybe a little around a month, and you can see how you get a really nice breakdown pre-ER, right? And this will be our manipulation. And then price gives you, like, this is a good example of PO3, and this is the reason why I'm addressing this after GS, is because based off of what, they're not the same thing, but in terms of the pattern, right? You get the manipulation after consolidating, you break under this range low, and then you get the expansion, right? Where's my green? There it is. And then you get that expansion. And so now that we've addressed the trend, we came back into discount. This discount was paired with our consolidation range highs, which is also now a form of a breaker, back into discount. So we have a really strong earnings catalyst. So this entire area here can act as your power gap because you have the gap and then you have the aggressive candle that delivered price into those new highs. So now 3M, I believe, can either consolidate a little bit more just because that is how this name does like to trade. So if you don't get the immediate delivery out of here, which I would assume takes you up into, excuse me, 175, 177, then we can still anticipate price to kind of redeliver, maybe consolidate, chill around here. But in between 154 and 160, $6 window, we're looking for 15 plus. So we have really good risk reward ratios in between the development of price here. And you can already see the reactions that's starting to occur every time we've come into this breaker. That also lines up with our discount and our rebalance of our power gap. So if price continues to compress here, it gives me that staircase analogy where you're creating a bunch of liquidity for your buy side curve, which would give you continuation of the higher low, higher high. So if you don't get the immediate push, which I wouldn't assume takes you to 174, then you can expect for price to kind of consolidate, build around this area, and then eventually trade out. Earnings are out of the way, so we don't really have to worry about any catalyst on the horizon, as the one of the more important ones is already out of the way. So watch this development, watch to see how 3M decides to kind of play out within the next week or so. But furthermore, I would anticipate this to continue. Looks really good. Next one on the list is ASTS, and this is very similar development to 3M. You can see we were in a consolidation period. We had the breakdown followed by a nice inversion that then redelivered price into very aggressive highs. And now we are back into something similar. So yet again, another reason to kind of take note as to like why I like things and why I trade a certain way is because a lot of them always look the same and they give you a very repeatable method that usually for me has given me a very consistent outcome. So once again, price delivers, swing low to swing high, price comes back into discount, right? We're coming back to fair value. We have cleaned up a lot of these gaps, taken out some really nice external lows, came back to rebalance a lot of these unfilled orders when price did accelerate. Breaker, discount. Now we have a rev day strap perspective. If this rev day does not give you the immediate follow through, we could still reject at our previous week low and get one more driver. So there's still two scenarios, right? The first scenario is you create 3 drivers. So you push up, create a lower high, one more sweep, which could be based off of earnings, or due to the fact that we've already came and redelivered based off of how earnings goes, this can definitely create a really nice kind of like flag breakout because you've left a lot of lower highs unattended and you've pretty much just been coming down to take sell side but keep the order flow of your higher time frames intact because once again, low, high, if this is going to be the retracement of the low and then you push back up into another high. So definitely keep an eye on this. You do have earnings right around the corner, so if earnings reactions are not necessarily good, but you manage to kind of stay above the 50-51 mark, I would favor a 3 driver into discount that then gives you some expansion into end of year. So definitely keep an eye on ASTS. One of my favorite charts, by the way. DraftKings, I won't spend too much time on this. This one's more of a range trade. You got a really nice external sweep into a really nice PD array, which is your higher time frame OB that kind of created a really nice effect of price into the high 48. So range highs, range lows. If price is historical, do you get some kind of pop? And basically what I'm going for here is we got really nice follow through into the gap. I would like to see continuation. The key thing is staying above the 28s. So if you don't get any immediate follow through, I would like to see some kind of reset on the 4 that then pushes you up into 32, 33, maybe even as high as 34. And if the weekly wants to, you could even do something like this. It really just depends on, there's many ways that this can play out, right? You push up actually into the 37s, establish a higher low, and then maybe get a final push into like 40. So definitely keep an eye on that. But if this does happen, you also have the potential to establish an inverse head and shoulders, which could then change the entire narrative of price and put you into the buy side of the curve. So pretty much I'm just looking for a range trade here. And I would like to see momentum. You could still hold inside weak. You could kind of chill because this was a pretty large move. So you could kind of just chill in between that post earnings range. But if you get follow through the gap, I would anticipate at least 32, 33 before some kind of reset. But looks really good nonetheless. Another chart I'm looking at is Bill Holdings. And that's because we have confluence of an inversion, which created new lows. Then you got follow through off the nose with a gap up, post earnings gap. You have your expansion. You have the potential higher low off of the 3 sets of confluence that we just addressed over here. So we have a small window of opportunity, 41, 44, $3 window to see if this is going to be the higher time frame, higher low that potentially trades you back up into the 50 plus. So I just really like this one for the risk reward. I'm not a fan of how price delivered into the potential higher low, is this is very aggressive. When I'm looking for things that redeliver back into fair value under discount or some kind of retracement within the overall narrative of the trend, I like it to be systematic, right? I like it to be condensed, compressed, because this creates a really nice narrative for liquidity when price does want to discover it. Versus when you have something like this, you create obstacles, and price sometimes tends to struggle through that. So a lot of the times too, when you're getting those kinds of retracements or reversals, make sure you understand the context of price and how it's delivering into it. So, I mean, you got the initial reaction that we wanted to see. Rev day, wigged off the gap, in the discount. So let's see how the follow through plays out from here. Next on the list, sorry, my voice is just getting really dry. Next on the list is Hertz. And I've already talked about this one in one of the previous watch lists, but I'm just going to cover it again because we got the delivery out of it. So the 3 driver, look at this really nice reaccumulation, right? 1 whole year stuck, get the really nice aggression, 3 driver delivery and discount paired with a breaker, restructure and refill the unfilled orders back from April 2025 after an external sweep of the broadening. Now you have a broadening inversion off of a 3 driver. So this is all now context in between 540, 630 for buyers to hold and eventually give you that LRLR break. Because look at how, remember what did I just say earlier about Bill, right? When price is delivering in a discount, what do we like to see? Is this not that example? Because when it breaks out, all those previous lower highs that we left unscathed get taken out, and they get taken out pretty aggressively. And when I go into the daily, oops, that's not the daily. I really, really like how price is now building out of that. Not only do we have a power gap, which was from a really nice catalyst as our earnings, now we're getting compression. So that mother bar that was created after earnings, we are now absorbing and balancing in between it, which is a good sight for me. Because even if you do get some kind of sweep, now you have confluence of a gap and the potential for a higher low to develop. So if you do sweep, you get something like this. And if not, you kind of just continue to build here. But my targets on this are initially 8.3 and 9.3. Really, really clean chart. Another one that's kind of similar is Ford. Once again, you have your post earnings gap. And when I zoom into the hourly here, 4 hour, I just really like this buildup. Gap contested, also a previous high. You got the expansion, redelivery, context of what used to be and what is now. And you got really nice aggression out of it. So I really would just like to see continuation on this. Like the buildup on Ford just looks really, really nice. And I would like to see this. I mean, it could take some time because you can just kind of chill in between. But I would like to see this trade up into the upper 14s. And whether or not you want to kind of establish a higher low, that can also happen, right? Because you have your overall range here. So if you don't get the immediate move, you can also get something like this. Test the gap and then break out. Either or, it's looking really nice. Next on the list is Jets. And I have covered this in the past and I'm going to cover it again because the weekly narrative has not failed yet. You're still compressing within this really nice candle from the August 25th, August 11th, 2025, sorry. So notice how if I go into the daily, from swing low, swing high, swing low, swing high, look at what price has just been doing in here. It's just been compressing. This is the type of PA I like to see when we're trying to establish and respect the trend, because you're creating such nice liquidity if and when it's ready to break out. And when we're doing it against the context of our fair value and prices coming back in a discount, I mean, look at this. You get a really nice external, and then you redeliver back. To me, this just looks like some form of reaccumulation for higher. And it could be waiting on news or something. So, I mean, maybe this is related to government shutdown, which could also make sense. And if some kind of news comes in within the next week, I mean, we've seen a lot of airlines, TA, and all that stuff, and how they've been affected. So maybe that could be why. So definitely keep Jets. I really like AAL. If you are in 8x trades, we did get a swing position that's already up 60%. So I would definitely like to see follow through on the remaining contracts. Another one of my favorites is BRK.B, and this one's pretty simple and straightforward. It's just basically me taking into account how price gives you new swing lows, and then on the daily you establish new higher highs. It's just cleaner to see on the weekly, so you can see what I mean right here, right? Lows, lower highs, lower lows, new highs. And then you redeliver into the higher low. So when I go back into the weekly, you could see why it's kind of important where it bounced, because you had a really nice inefficiency here. That price cleaned up. Why is this so bright though? Really nice weekly inefficiency that cleaned up. You established a nice higher low after the initial trend change on the daily, and you got really good delivery. And so from here, I just want to see continuation and follow through. I'm not too sure if you get like a crazy retracement, maybe some kind of dip back into the previous day, maybe utilize it 50%. But with this kind of delivery out of that discount, and you got the sweep into that weekly and daily inefficiency, you established a nice high low out of your discount, and you got really nice expansion. So, I mean, from here, I really want to say that Berkshire runs into like 520 plus into this quarter. Just looks phenomenal. ALAB 2-day, I like how you've been respecting the 618 on each lower high attempt, but I also like how the external buildup is looking. You have a previous all-time high, you have the expansion through that. So you have the confluence of your imbalance paired with breaker and the breakout and how price is absorbing now. So if you get and find yourself into some form of exhaustions on here, I would like to see kind of this now start to change the trend a little bit. And earnings are out of the way on this one. So for me personally, as long as ALAB stays above 141 and kind of finds exhaustion down here, I would like to see some kind of like inverse head and shoulder starts to develop. So you got this, maybe something like this, right? So see if you can start to get some push through. If you can reclaim 174, I would like price to do this. Come up, reject, find some stability, and then eventually run. But the way the 2-day development, it does kind of look like we are in a form of reaccumulation that eventually breaks out. Now, if that is not the case, we have the entire range from a higher degree standpoint. So understand that if this isn't complete, we can go for maybe one more and then run. So make sure you understand that part too. UPS, this one's pretty straightforward. Sorry, I don't know why I have a little dry cough right now. This one's paired with an earnings gap and pretty much delivery out of it. So when I take my swing low, swing high, you get some really nice staircase compression into the 0.5, 0.6, which is your discount. You do come back to, remember, open gaps, gap ups tend to support buyers, gap downs tend to support sellers. So I pretty much just want to see straight follow through. I don't really want to see this dip down even more. So you have two scenarios though. You could do this, inverse head and shoulders, and then you break out. Or if you don't get the immediate follow through, you dip back into maybe 50% and then redeliver back into the gap. But I am targeting at minimum 101 on this. Just looks really, really good. NVDA is more of a speculative play because there was a lot of call flow. The only reason I would bring this to your attention is because you did come into a 4-hour PD array last down candle before an aggressive move up. And so we did come into the threshold of that, which was also a redefined range because this is where kind of price stabilized for a bit. So we know that this range here is a demand in some form or fashion. And so we got a really nice 4-hour delivery through the gap, and we're pretty much at previous week low. So if we can get follow through, I would like to see this somewhere around the 192, 193. Excuse me. Sorry, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just talking too much. But yeah, pretty much coming into this lower time frame, we define refined demand with some nice speculative call flow. See if you can get that continuation and push through. Now, if it is going to change the trend, if the trend is going to change, I would keep an eye on it, something like this. So if you do push up, you might find yourself rejecting somewhere between 195 and 199. Next on the list, I'm going to go through these really quickly, y'all. My dry cough for some reason is pretty bad right now, but I like how XLU is developing. I think you have a really nice window here to get some really nice LR trades back to the upside. And if not, again, don't forget, you could still get the... Oh, come on. once we get into discount. So again, if you don't get the immediate push, you could do something like this. But overall, I am pretty bullish on a good chunk of XLU names, and you also have that breaker here, right? So a lot of confluence for XLU in between the 86 and 88 range. And the names that I like a lot from this list are Constellation Energy Corporation, and I'll leave this chart here for you. Nice delivery back, earnings is out of the way, nice rev day into a monthly breaker that lasted for a good chunk of the time. When I take my swing low to swing high, we got a nice redelivery into our imbalance and a daily order block, external swept. So if we get momentum, we actually then create a Brownian formation inversion. So I want to keep an eye on this and see how you do here. But if there is still momentum, I think this can make a run for the 380s and maybe even 400s. Because again, if this is going to be your expansion and this is going to be your internal buildup of the overall leg, the targets would be back into the 400 plus. And XLU is looking pretty freaking good. AEP, I just really like this buildup against yet again another powerful earnings gap paired with the breaker. I don't know if this one's actually in a discount. Actually, you are. So with AP, I would target 125. And anything in between this earnings gap is buyable because it's also paired with a breaker here. And you can kind of see where price responds pretty well. And I pretty much just like this overall development. If you don't get the immediate continuation, again, I'm looking for that delivery back in a 125 to kind of confirm expansion low, expansion high, higher low, higher high. And finally, VST. You have some pretty clean LRLR being set up here. And it's also coming from a massive base that has been around for what? 3, 4, nearly 5 months, y'all. A 5-month base where the stops were ran through and you went outside day off the bottom of the Brownian. And look at this pivot machine gun from a strap perspective off of like maybe the weekly or 2-day. And so if this is a range, where do you think price can go? Brownian low to Brownian high, right? So does VST make a run for those highs again? Like I said, XLU is looking really, really good. And so I would definitely keep an eye on some of your more favorite names. CEG, AEP, VST make me really excited just in terms of how they're looking and the potential development that could come from them. Some bonus charts, I won't really say too much. Path is just coming into a really nice higher time frame narrative, and we've had this drawn out since the first time I did my review on this, and it's pretty much playing out pretty well. So now off this earnings gap paired with your 618, can we finally get that follow through? It has had good news, so maybe it's finally ready. Another one is IBM. I like the development against your previous all-time highs. You have really nice internal buildup on the daily. As long as price stays above 298, I am looking for 325, 330. And then Meta based off of my weekly. And I did share this chart with the Discord. We pretty much had a good short from the 660s down in the 601s, which again has alignment and confluence with a weekly gap. Okay. So if this does hold, I would like to see if Meta can make a run for 675, 685, and maybe even 703. And then if it does fail there, then eventually maybe establish a lower high that then rejects. So see how it does off of this 601 and whether or not price can utilize this nice hammer candle on the daily to maybe get some momentum back to the upside a little bit. So yeah, that is it for my watch list. Remember guys, I do these videos for you, hopefully help paint a new light in how you see price action. And all I ask is for your support by subscribing. Remember, let's get this account to 5,000 subs. I want to do it by the end of the year so I can start releasing my educational content. That's all I need from you. So make sure you leave a like, some comments, share my page with your friends and family. And I apologize for the pauses that I had in between this video. I don't know what's going on. I just got a little bit of a dry throat. But as always, I hope you guys have a great trading week. I will see you all next week. And that's it. See ya.